Hi, everybody. Welcome. My name is Sam Price, cryptolifer. Welcome to the Cryptolifer Show. As we told you, more content coming in 2023. Every single Wednesday at 7 p.m., we're going to bring you a personality that has something to do with cryptocurrency, whether it's a trader, a miner, a builder, a dev, something that's going to make you interested in crypto and bring you a new story. You may have heard of this person before. He's a known trader. He was here before me. He brought me into the fold. He's an awesome guy. He's been on YouTube for a while. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Jason. What's going on, man? How you been today?
Bam, man. First of all, let me just say I am honored to be on your channel, bro. I didn't think this was ever going to happen, to be honest with you, but I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. And different, we already had a kind of our first impromptu interview, which actually did really good. Almost 5,000 views. People were really liking that, going to that. It happened in the middle of the Bitcoin 20K pump. It was out of control. We kind of jumped on in. This is more of just, we're going to talk about 3 different topics. We're going to break down some of our insights, things that we know about them, and just, share a good conversation about them to help the viewers stay entertained and informed. So the first topic that I wanted to discuss today was the Federal Reserve. Zero Hedge did a great article about it. A lot of people think it's a private entity. I've gotten arguments with my father telling him it's not private, it's not public, it's not owned by the government. It's actually a group of private people. When did you first learn about the Federal Reserve? And kind of what did you know about it? Did it have anything to do with why you got into crypto?
Yeah, it had actually a huge reason to why I got into crypto in the first place. And I've always been, well, going back to 2012, I've been into stacking physical precious metals and things like that to hedge against the dollar. So I guess around 2012, when I was 21, I just started to do some research. I ended up reading Creature from Jekyll Island. Found a few interesting people on the internet, like Jeff Berwick from the Dollar Vigilante and things like that. Ron Paul, back in those days.
Case for gold, baby.
Yeah. And so I quickly started to realize, hey, man, the dollar's a huge Ponzi scheme. It's a huge scam. The Federal Reserve, basically, ever since we went off the gold standard in 1971, the dollar's been losing its value. And we can go back to 1913, when the Federal Reserve was established, and it's man, my dollar has 96% less purchasing power today than it would have in 1913. So how can I keep losing my purchasing power? And so I was into precious metals, and then one day I actually listened to a podcast. I forget who it was even with, but they were talking about Bitcoin, and this was back in 2014, 2015. And they were talking about basically how this is what currency should be, peer-to-peer. You don't need any bank. You're your own bank as long as you have your private keys, all that stuff, right? And then I finally listened again to another podcast in 2016. Didn't know anything about crypto, but this guy was so bullish. He said each Bitcoin is going to be worth $1 million in 10 years. And so this was before I was trading. This was 2016. I was just starting to dabble in investing. I was 25. And I went home. I told my wife, hey, there's this thing called Bitcoin. I really think we should get into it. And so I think we should put our whole life savings into it. At the time, we were saving up to buy a property so we could be more self-sufficient and homestead. And she immediately said, okay, which to me was a sign, bro, because typically I'm a ready, fire, aim kind of guy where if I have an idea, I just go for it. And if I make mistakes, I'll clean them up after, right? My wife, she's no, let's think this through. Let's be responsible. She said yes immediately. I took that as a sign. So we took, at the time, we had I think it was $30K, $40K, and we put that into Bitcoin when it was $500, $600. And then I sold a big chunk of it when it hit 10K. I sold another chunk when it hit 16K. And that opened up my eyes to wow, this is life-changing money. We were able to buy a property, a number of acres, and basically set ourselves up now to be raising our animals and growing our food and stuff. And bro, from that time onward, I got really much so into investing in specifically crypto because the ease of entry. I was a young guy. I didn't really have any experience. I don't have tons of capital to trade Forex and stocks. There was just the ease of entry for this. That's what led me down the road of actually becoming, now I guess I would consider myself like a day trader. But yeah. I do hodl and swing trade, but primarily I'm a day trader,
Yeah, so because I met you as a trader, and I didn't assume anything. I didn't know, but a lot of the guys that are heavy trading, specifically Bitcoin and leverage, they tend not to be into the gold and the silver stacking as much. And so it's kind of cool we have that. I started buying gold and silver. I started stacking silver and gold too. I didn't buy as much Bitcoin as you did, as cheap as you did. God bless you. But you know, I haven't sold not one Bitcoin since I've bought it. Like I'm not going to sell Bitcoin until it's well over like a quarter bill, like 250K. I plan on buying a house or something. You know what I mean? Like just moving it like you did. I want to buy my home. Maybe I'll buy my homestead with it. And when I move to Florida, you know, I'll get my 10 acres and figure it out. But that's cool. We have that in common. I like that about you because you're fundamentally trained in the idea of scarcity. You understand, you live through it, right? It made sense to you. And you use that to your advantage. You know, I always tell people the best way to move forward is to research history, right? And technically when you buy gold and silver and stuff like that, you're kind of researching history because you're understanding the fact that the dollar has lost so much value, like you said, since 1913. You know, I always like to bring the story up when I'm teaching classes. Like, I'm like, well, say you asked for $20 of gold in 1913 and someone gave you $20 worth of gold or $100 worth of gold, let's say, and a $100 bill. Now back then, $100 worth of gold probably would have got you a very high, nice suit, a nice dinner, and you probably have like $50 left over or more. I don't know exactly, but now you fast forward to now, you'd have
this suit.
Yeah, right. You'd have $100. You'd have $100 in fiat, right? Which would maybe get you like the cheapest suit on the market now, right? Like, and you wouldn't have anything left for dinner. But if you had that $100 worth of gold, it's probably worth like $2-3 grand now. You'd still have a very high, nice suit and multiple nice dinners. So gold has kept its value, and that's why we call gold money and fiat currency, right? And I always make this cool little trick, currency, because when you look at a leaf and you throw it onto the current of a stream, it disappears. It's gone. It doesn't stay there forever, right? And that's why it's currency. You see it go with the current. You know what I mean? Like it's currency. But yeah, this is
biblical,
awesome,
bro. You know, gold and silver, that's biblical money. You know, in the original language that the Bible is written in, do you know the word for money is kesef, which just means silver, like literally. The word for silver and money is the same. So, yeah, you go back thousands of years, gold always maintained its value pretty steadily. So, like you say, history repeats. And I think the only reason the dollar hasn't experienced something like what happened in Germany in the 30s, the 20s, after World War I, is because of the petrodollar. And actually, I know that this wasn't one of the topics we were going to look at.
No. This is like, let's caveat into the petrodollar because this just makes sense. Like everyone has to buy our dollars to buy oil. Elaborate on this.
Right.
A lot of people don't understand.
Yeah, so after Nixon took us off the gold standard in 1971, they basically made a deal with Saudi Arabia, which basically is OPEC. And they basically made it kind of like an international law where if you want to buy oil from Saudi Arabia, you have to first buy dollars and buy the oil with dollars. Well, that's what's kept the dollar being the world reserve currency. You know, you talk to people, they don't understand why the dollar is the world reserve currency. Some people are like, oh, it's because our military is so strong. Well, we've agreed to protect Saudi Arabia from like Iran and other countries, but the reason why our military has promised to protect them is because, you know, we've made this deal with them. Well, now they're honestly talking and starting to accept deals in the ruble, the Russian ruble, the yuan. And, you know, this could really be the domino that sets the whole thing off because China's already selling U.S. bonds off like crazy. And we have all these dollars that just got printed into existence in the past 2 years after the so-called pandemic. And it's like, well, if the dollar starts to lose its value, most of those dollars are actually offshore. So if the dollar's starting to lose its value, and if China and all these other countries are starting to sell the dollars off, they're all going to come back to the United States. And now we're going to have this influx of dollars coming in. And it's not based on anything except the idea that in order to buy oil from Saudi Arabia, you first have to convert your currency into dollars. So it's very interesting. I don't know what's going to happen in the next few years, but I think we're living in some very volatile times, bro. Like the next few years, I would say, leading to 2030 and 2050 are going to be very interesting when it comes to like the global economic situation. And, you know, gold and silver, physical assets, property, you know, even stuff like animals. That's real wealth, in my opinion. Yeah. So
even firearms, firearms don't lose value. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true,
I don't want to promote that, but like, it's just, anything that you can use that actually, you know, I was talking about Jay Leno. He started buying classic cars because he couldn't buy anything else. He had the real estate, he had the bank account, he had the stocks. I mean, you're still bringing in millions of dollars. What do? You got to buy a scarce asset, right? You also made me think, you know, history repeats itself. Isn't it interesting, 1920 and the crash of 1920 And then we're in 2020, like the 20s tend, you know, and we tend to have the volatility, the pandemic, all that happened in March of 2020. Tends to be a cycle that we maybe not be able to leave from. Great. I mean, you just blew me away. This is awesome. My viewers are going to love this. You know, you may be in a tank top, but you're speaking like a man who is a professor at a college, man. You know what you're talking about. So
that's why you can't be stacking that fiat. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to afford a nice suit like you, bro. You're going to be stuck in a tank top.
Yeah, man, I got lucky. So many of my wife worked in the suit industry for years, right? Like this suit right here, 3-piece. Guy didn't pick it up. She came, said, put it on. It fit me, you know. And then she had tailors that would just. So I was broke as a joke, sitting there walking around New York City with 3 pieces on and on, like, you know, $1,500 suits, because my wife always took care of me, man. Like, now I could, you know, wear suits if I want. And everyone asks why I wear the suit, because I started this live stream. I'm here every day, and I'm a creative guy. Like, I did music, you know, I did all sorts of arts and stuff, and I started wearing like a shirt every day. And I just, one day, I looked at this 3-piece, and I was about to go on, and I was like, man, I could put a pocket square, and I could match the pocket square, and I was like, oh, that's kind of fun. And it kind of made my morning funner now, you know? So like tomorrow, like when I wake up in the morning, I'm like, you know, and I could wear the vest, the shirt, and it just gives me more options. You know what I mean? Like, women get to accessorize, men never get to do it. So to me, it's like, I can do all these fun things. So anyway, off topic, bringing it back into the show. Second topic we want to talk about, right, is the idea of Bitcoin mining. The hash rate is at its all-time high. Now, have you ever mined? Did you ever get into mining? Did you ever know someone that got into mining?
So my extent of mining is when I first got into buying Bitcoin, I understood that mining was a thing. And I ended up like purchasing these cloud mining contracts, bro, like, which was basically a scam.
Hashflare, right? Or so I was doing those too, man. Yeah, that was big. Yeah, BitConnect, those cloud mining, all that stuff was out there.
Yeah, cloud mining. And I honestly, like, basically what happened is it just became it became too difficult to be profitable. And I actually did make some money on that because, and I look at this as a God thing, like, I got into crypto at the right time knowing nothing. Like I said, I listened to a podcast and I FOMO'd my whole life savings in. So, wow. You know, in hindsight, bro, the Lord was like very merciful to me in that. But I always wanted to build a rig. But then I guess after everything crashed in 2018, it's like, am I going to spend all this money on GPUs to try and, like, I don't even know if I'll be able to break even on this, you know? And then from that point onward, I never really looked into it. That's when I started to really focus on trading, because my goal was how can I use crypto to, like, consistently make money, like in little chunks. And for me, that was trading, because I didn't have to buy anything. I just had to learn, you know, and that's free. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. But how about you? Do you mine crypto?
I've always wanted to mine. Like, I've always been the guy that says, oh, I can't wait to mine, you know? And then when it comes down to it, I'm looking at my house and I'm like, what room would I put it in? You know, like, how loud would it be? I got into a little Vertcoin mining and stuff you could do on your computer and stuff like that. And I always dreamed of mining. And I kind of feel like I missed the boat on Ethereum. Like, I wanted to start mining Ethereum around $100, $200. I honestly, like you, like, I never had the infrastructure. When I had extra money, I would DCA into a project that I really liked, or I would use it for capital to trade. You know, so I never really planned on, you know, building a great mining operation and getting into it. So, you know, to me, I would have to plan it out, put the resources down. But, you know, a piece of me wishes I did know more about it, wishes I did get into it. Every once in a while, I meet someone who's, like, more wealthy than me, who's interested, and they learn about crypto through me, and I'm always like, hey, we should set up a mine, and, like, I can help you build it. And there's been some talks about setting up an Ethereum mine with one of my buddies. But yeah, man, I just haven't gotten around to it. I'm kind of sad about it. Like, I want to be the guy who does everything in crypto, but mining is something I just, you know. And honestly, me and you were traders too, though. To be good at one thing, you want to be good. Like, if I was mining all day, I'd probably be looking at hash rates. I'd be checking on things. I'd be finding the new ant miner. And I'd be the best miner out there. Like, I want to be, you know, I want to be focused on trading. But I mean, it doesn't mean that we couldn't have a mine running. But yeah, I never fully got into it. Really good though. The article is suggesting that the hash rate is the highest it's ever been. That's a really big deal for Bitcoin. You know, if anyone understands the hash rate, it basically is the difficulty level. All right. When the first miners ever jumped into Bitcoin, they started mining, and this level went to a high, you know, it got harder and harder to create blocks for Bitcoin. All right. And what this happens is they want to slow the block progression down. If too many blocks are getting created, basically the difficulty level gets way too high. It gets almost impossible to create a block. So it drops. What happens is inside the code of Bitcoin, every 2 weeks, the difficulty level will be re-administered. It'll lower a little bit. And what this does is it lets blocks get created faster, lets more miners jump on in, and creates this ebb and flow of miners coming in and out of the system. Now, what's good about it is when it gets lower, it makes it more opportunity for people with small mining operations to get in and continue to make profit. What happens when Bitcoin drops to a very small level, like in a bear market, we lose 80% of our value. The hash rate also kind of gets up there, and it gets very hard for the new miners, smaller miners, mom and pop miners, to survive. One thing I want to ask you is if too many mom and pop miners can't survive, and the people to buy up those miners and to begin to continue to buy are the billionaires and the multimillionaires, could we lose some centralization in Bitcoin? Do you think that maybe all the people mining will have so much money and that you won't even be able to mine if you're not one of the big boys?
I mean, it seems likely. See, I don't really know much about mining, but I do know that like back in like 2021, there was like the whole deal with like F2 pool, the mining pool that like sold off a whole bunch of Bitcoin and it caused like a big price up or something. It does make sense if only certain groups or classes of people are able to mine Bitcoin and they're also now holding the most Bitcoin, then I can see that it could become more and more decentralized. And I know that, I'll be honest with you, Sam. So the vision that I think Satoshi had for Bitcoin, I don't think Bitcoin is that, right? It was supposed to be a currency that was meant for like everyday transactions, peer-to-peer transactions. It was supposed to be anonymous. But now it's very interesting. Like, not that I would ever advise anybody go on the dark web to purchase anything off, the dark web, but, people don't use Bitcoin on the dark web anymore. They're using privacy coins like Monero, like Pirate Chain, because Bitcoin is like completely, totally trackable. And unfortunately, we have this, I know it's not centralized, but just the fact that you can have something like FTX where crypto was supposed to be something where we're our own bank, and now all of a sudden we're basically allowing some random dude in the Bahamas be our bank for us. It ends up being a huge Ponzi scheme. So I do think that there is always the threat of Bitcoin becoming less and less decentralized, and I think it's something that we always have to be careful about, especially for people who believe in, I would say, the fundamentals of what Satoshi Nakamoto, whoever that is, originally envisioned, right?
Did you
because
ever?
Right,
Sorry. Yep.
Right now, what we're doing with it is not what it was intended to do, not what was intended in the white paper, So it is interesting, but and that's why I'm actually super bullish on privacy coins. I've been stacking Monero like crazy.
Interesting.
Like crazy.
Wow.
And
I used to be really bullish on Monero. I got a bunch of it. Maybe you could help me. I put like 15 Monero into, I had it, on an exchange. I wanted to get it off the exchange. I got the Ledger Nano X. You kind of had to it didn't hold Monero, but it was you could use the Monero wallet. And so I downloaded the whole Monero blockchain onto my hard drive.
Yeah.
I got the Mailer Daemon, and I got the GUI, and then I have Mailer Daemon, like MAE Daemon or something. Mm-hmm. And a year went by. I can't get the Monero. I've tried 100 times. The password works. Really? It's the right password. It's the right seed phrase, all this stuff. But every time I access it, it's trying to load the blockchain. Maybe I need to and I could have made it easy wallet or a more different. And I did the whole blockchain, and it kind of became a mess. But
are you by any chance using the Exodus wallet to connect to that Monero?
No, I don't think so. No, but I'll
you got the
Ledger Nano X with the Monero wallet. That you download.
Is it scanning and it never finishes scanning?
Totally.
Okay, I know how to fix that. We can talk about that after.
Yeah, that's what's going on. Thank you.
Yeah, there's a way to fix that. Yeah.
Cool. I figured you could help me now that you're stacking the Monero. So, coolest, of all the articles that we talk about today, the coolest article I thought was interesting. Plan B. Now, not everyone is a huge fan of Plan B, right? But he says, quant analyst Plan B says new Bitcoin bull market just started, as several indicators scream strength. Popular quant analyst Plan B says recent Bitcoin rally isn't the bull trap many investors are weary of. Plan B tells 1.8 million Twitter followers that several benchmark indicators are suggesting that what many believe is a bull trap is in fact the start of a new bull cycle. And he shows like the lows of the RSI where we come back up, the relative strength index. And, he also talks about how the S&P tends to recover better than Bitcoin. When the S&P went from 1,000 to 4,000, that's Bitcoin going from 1,000 to 20,000, right? So if we can get the S&P to recover to 5,000, that could give you Bitcoin back to 27, 30K, right? So he's suggesting a move for Bitcoin in 2024 to 32,000. He basically, knowing that the halving is coming, it's going to hype up the prices. So what do you think about Plan B? I've been weary about it. He hasn't always been spot on. It's been up and down. It's kind of funny they would come out with such, veracity of a statement now. But what do you think? Did we bottom? Do you think we bottom? Are you one of the traders that says, I don't think? Like, I like to say, I don't know. But, just trying to find out kind of how you feel about the whole situation,
Yeah, bro. Well, I'm still hanging tight to Plan B's prediction for 98K by November 2021. So I'm still hodling on for that. But no, I'm just playing. So he has been spot on with pretty much throughout the whole last cycle. He was pretty spot on. And he makes bold statements out in the public, and no one can be right all the time, right?
No
one's ever right all the time. I do think actually that we're in for a rally, and I think that for a number of reasons. Is it possible for me to show a chart on here?
Yeah, if you could share your screen with the zoom down below you there, the big yeah. Oh, hold on 1 second. Let me hold on. You should be good to go right now. Yep.
Okay, let me see something here. Okay, cool. So there's a few things that really
hold on 1 second. Interesting. Okay, cool.
There's a few things that make me think that we actually have potentially bottomed out here. And the first thing is that we are putting in a higher high on the weekly right now. This is like nothing to scoff at. We haven't put in a higher high on the weekly since November 2021 when we hit the all-time high. And also, this is the highest percent gain weekly candle we've had since February 2021, right? This is a 24% candle on Coinbase. And something else that's very, very interesting to me is the fact that if we look at the monthly time frame, we are seeing on market Cipher B, which is the indicator I use, that we're getting a green dot printing below the zero line. We haven't had this since literally the bottom of the bear market in 2018, which gave us the relief rally. Before that, higher low before the bull market actually kicked in. And interestingly enough, right, the amount of time that we have to the future halving that's coming around April 2024 is about the same amount of time that we had from this bottom here with the green dot to the halving that happened. What was it, like March of 2020 when we got that halving? I forget exactly when it was. Let me see if I actually have the yeah, I actually have it right here. So the green line is the green dot printing on the monthly market Cipher B, which led to a bear market relief rally. The orange line is the halving. Right here we've got the green line with the green dot, and the orange line is the halving. It's the same amount of time, which is super, super interesting. I think we can see some more upside here for certain, having put in that higher high. And if we actually take a look also at the at what's happening more locally, I'm gonna pull up another chart here on Bybit because I trade on Bybit and I find that it has the best volume. Dang it, what's going on here? Here we go. Yeah, so on Bybit, you can see we're actually breaking out of this long wedge here. And the reason why I think this is so significant is because if we just come above this trend line that we have right here from the all-time high, which is coming in at around 23K, we will actually be breaking out of this massive range that we had going on since June. And so this would be like extremely bullish across all time frames here. You know, if we can come above that trend line, come above this 23K level, it could be a very, very smooth move back up to that 30K level, which would be just a perfect retest of, you know, 30K is this massive support and resistance that we had going all the way back to 2020. So at the very least, I would expect a relief rally up to this zone, potentially putting in either a lower low or a higher low. So I think there's a lot of valid reasons to think that a significant bottom could be in. The only thing I don't like about this bottom is the fact that we haven't really come down to any key areas of support. I mean, it's just very strange to me. Like when we look at the weekly, it's like we stopped in the middle of nowhere.
I said
like
that today on the total market cap. I'm like, I was like, there's really no reason we stopped here. I'm like, we just stopped. I'm like, what is? I said, which gets me like, why wouldn't we test 12,000, 13.8, right?
Yeah, at least 13.8. The 2019 high is like what I'm looking at. But hey, you know, Bitcoin does what it wants, right, bro?
Yeah. Hey, that's why I always love like sharing my charts with you and hanging out with you, because like you see like 80% of what I see, but you see it somewhat differently, and it always gives me like another perspective and an idea to like, oh yeah, you know, it's like,
that's why I watch you too, bro.
It's funny. I flip on your channel the other day, and you're like, cup and handle. And I was like, my man, you know. It was just funny. But like,
I shouted you out on Around the Blockchain yesterday because I saw cup and handle. I'm like, shout out to cryptolifer.
Yeah, thank you.
But
you're the man, dude.
Bro, let me show you one more thing. You mind if
you
mind if I show you one more chart here?
No, not at all, man. Please.
This is very, very interesting chart. The Bitcoin Ethereum pair.
It's nice when I'm not the one charting. It's kind of like I'm on vacation. You know what I mean? It's like
you're gonna like this, bro, because there's a giant cup and handle here. Let me share this. There's a giant cup and handle right here.
Just hit that share button again. Alt S will give you a quick. Look at that.
Oh,
thing.
Alt S.
Look at that.
Yeah. So what's super interesting about this, and this I'm kind of using to time like altcoin season, right?
Yep.
The orange lines on the chart are the bottom of the bear market where we printed that 1 month green dot on market cipher. And notice that like Ethereum was stuck in this sideways range as we bottomed out during the last bear market. And right now we're bottoming out maybe, and we're also in a sideways range, which just so happens to be the handle of this cup and handle. Now, interestingly enough, once we bottomed out the bear market, Bitcoin started to really pump against Ethereum. And then around the fall of 2019, that's really when the altcoins started to take off, which culminated in like the March 2021. This was like a massive move for altcoins. And so it's just so interesting to see this cup and handle here, because now that we're getting the 1 month green dot, maybe we're going to get another move back down to the low of the range here. And again, because this is like the weekly time frame, we're talking months away.
Totally, yeah.
But if we start to break out this cup and handle, we could see like all-time highs for the Ethereum Bitcoin pair, maybe like, you know, 150,000 Satoshis per Ethereum, and imagine what that would do to other altcoins. So I think we're just in general, like very exciting times to say the least. Like there's a lot of signs here that are very similar to what happened back in the last bottom of the bear market. And I think also the fact that everybody has been calling for lower, myself included. I mean, we do need to punish some shorts, bro. I was getting paid the funding fee just for holding my leverage shorts. Like I was raking it in every day, making like, I mean, obviously it's not a lot, right? But every day.
But the fact that it's balanced, you know, you're not paying for it. So it's like.
So shorts need to get wrecked, bro. These bears need to get wrecked, and then maybe we can come down for a lower low. You know what I'm saying?
Totally. Yeah, too many people have been shorting since 40K, 50K. There's a lot of stop losses. I like ETH BTC too to time altcoins. I was taught by a great mentor, showed me how to look at the markets, showed me what assets to juxtapose, and just keep hammering them away, and you get, you know, probabilities. But I get this like shoulder, this head, this right shoulder. Look how tight we're getting in the zone. We're actually oversold on the daily, while Bitcoin isn't. It's one of the few assets that's actually getting low on the daily. This tells me ETH that the market is going to go up, and that ETH, obviously, if the market goes up well, and we get Bitcoin from, you know, 22 to 25, then we're going to get ETH, right? Maybe from like 15 to 20, you know? Like,
yeah.
ETH will make a bigger move, and therefore... So a lot of times when I see ETH BTC could make a move, it does tell me like the whole market will move. ETH will move with Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes Bitcoin moves first, right? And then ETH will follow it. It depends on the cycle. But yeah, I mean, I'm seeing some real bullishness too for Ethereum. This is your handle right here. See, this is the handle he's showing.
Yeah, that's the handle,
man. That's the handle, and this is the cup. Awesome. Awesome.
Bro, I just saw something else really awesome. I got to show you real quick.
Yeah.
So this thing right here is called the altcoin.
Oh yeah, I love
index.
this thing. Yeah.
We just hit a 20 on the Bitcoin season, which means obviously no financial advice, but for me it means it's time to really start stacking the alts.
Yeah.
Because whenever this thing comes down into like the 20K zone, the alts will pump like crazy. And we got plenty of time to get into, right?
Totally.
So from basically like May to June of 2022, May to June 2022 was the time to buy alts. And what's even like, we can even see it on the chart, right? Like May to June 2022, the Ethereum pair was getting lower. This is a great time to start stacking your alts. And then boom, we get this mini altcoin season and we come up to the top of the channel. So imagine now if we come down into this zone, we start accumulating, but it just so happens to be that we break out of the cup and handle like this. There is a potential, and this is just the way I'm looking at it, and not financial advice in any way, but we do have potential in these times to make life-changing money, bro.
Totally.
And we don't even need a lot of upfront capital, which is what makes it so great. It's like low risk, high reward, kind of stuff going on right here. So I'm getting stoked, man. I've been stacking some alts.
What else do you like?
Well, I'm into your typical like your big ones like Cardano, Ethereum, Monero. I'm big into Monero, and then some of the smaller coins I'm really into. I'm really into Pirate Chain. I'm really into Darrow.
It's funny you bring up Jeff. Jeff put me on to Pirate Chain. You know what I mean? Because I started watching the Dollar Vigilante, and so me and you, man. Yeah, it's so funny. Like we go same. I mean, it's not that. There's not that many outliers out there. People that go against the grain, right? And especially people that go against the grain on YouTube. So. If you're curious, you want to change your life, you're like, wait, what is this guy doing? You know, it's kind of interesting to see that idea that you brought it up. Yeah,
I like that guy, man. He's a cool guy.
Hey, he travels all around the world. Like, if you don't have one place to be, then you never have to pay taxes. Like, if it's like, if you move every 10 months, then you never have a residence. Like, that was his idea, you know? It's kind of, it's just insane, you know?
Yeah, bro.
But,
you know, I don't know if you follow his crypto guys, but a lot of them are calling this at the bottom as well.
Interesting.
I
haven't seen
Mr. A, Mr. X. They've been.
Oh yeah, he's Mr. X. You just reminded me. I didn't remember this for 2-3 years. The Mr. X guy that you always like, Mr. X. You know.
Yeah.
It's funny because it's funny. I got so immersed in my own channel, running the trading group that like, I don't even remember things that I used to do years ago. I'm like, oh yeah, I used to fly drones. I used to have other hobbies, and I'm like, oh yeah, I used to have a hobby. I used to do that. Now I just, you know. But man, I dedicated myself to other people. The testimonials I get from them is amazing. Like I was like, this is, I guess, God's plan for me. And I'm just, you know, it's like you didn't know you were going to get to 80,000 subscribers on YouTube. Like you throw your hat in the ring. You know what I mean? Like you didn't know people, like you do the best you can. And I mean, you're super excited to see the results. But, you know, like some people get like mad or jealous of people like, man, they say something. And you're like, I didn't even know this was going to happen to me. I just try, you know, I put my best foot forward and it happened, but like there's no guarantees. So that's what I love about YouTube too, is like everyone out here is like a sailor that put their ship into the ocean and decided to dedicate themselves to something when they weren't sure it was ever going to pay us back monetarily, but we knew we were going to get feedback that we wanted, right? Like we knew we were going to be able to do what we wanted with our lives, you know, whether it was going to bring us tons of money or not. Like I knew I loved to chart. I just love it. I love the probabilities of what can happen. You know, I'm as crazy as like, I even like just throwing a cup into a jar. I mean, like, all right, we hit 9 out of 10. Like any probability I get fascinated by, because I'm always wondering, like, how did the universe decide that was going to be the end result? You know, I think that's why I love trading. That's why love watching your channel. And I like watching people that are super analytic in it and like spend a lot of time into it, because I get a lot out of that, you know, instead of just someone who kind of touches over the market. So definitely everyone check out Jason Casper's channel. Do you go live almost every day, but random times, or
yeah. I don't have much of a schedule, which is really bad for building a YouTube channel. I try and post a video at least every day. Yeah. And I try and go live a few times a week. But I'm not like you, bro. You're out there grinding like every time. I could wake up at like 2 in the morning on like Christmas Eve and you're live. I'm like, dang, bro. This guy is like really putting in the work right now and making me feel guilty, you know?
I have like an obsessive compulsive disorder of some type. So it's like, it's really a disorder. Like, don't worry about it. Like, it's like, I just have this fear that if I stop, I get into patterns of life, and in my life, I've had really good patterns that went really well. And the second I like veered away from the pattern, like I worked out like you, I started getting real big. Then like took one day off, went to, you know, like went out all night and couldn't work out that next morning. And next thing you know, 6 months went by. I'm like, I haven't worked out. So like, I'm in the pocket of habit now, and I just don't want to break it. You know what I mean? So I just
for sure, bro.
Yeah. So I'm just in the zone, and you know, at one point and it wasn't easy, man. I streamed every day of 2022. Like there was some days where I got up and I was like I would almost get anxiety because I would think like, when is this going to end? You know, and then more people join for the year. You're like, I got more people for the year. I'm in for another year already, right? The second someone joins for the year in your trading group, you're in for the year. Like, and, you know, God bless everyone that does that. That's awesome. Like the train is moving, but you get onto the tracks, and I just been going ever since, man. But, I see, honestly, as much as you downplay it, whenever I check YouTube, whenever I'm on, like today you were on, I was on, like, you're freaking always on, man. Like you stream 80 to 90% of the day. I'd say 90% of the days you're rocking out. You know,
I used to do more, but everything in life is a give and take, bro. And honestly, I'm sure you can relate to this, but one of the things I've struggled with the most through being a trader, being a YouTuber,
I know what you're gonna say. Yep.
Balance, bro.
Yep.
Yeah. Balance, man. I struggle with that, and it's always a give and take for me. Like I find that like in life, I have to have like the thing that is doing the best and it's just killing it, and then everything else has to take second and third, and like it gets real tough because you know you got to put family in there, you got to put God in there, you got to put your health in there, and it's like balance, bro. It's really tough. Yep. I'll be honest with you. So, and I'm not a structured guy. I haven't had a job since 2013. So, you know.
Yeah, but you got your own structure. You're well put together. You're working out. Like you do have structure. I think you do, man. You inspire a lot of people. You inspired me, man. So like,
sometimes I feel like a horse with 3 legs trying to like go along, you know. Sometimes I feel that way, bro. But in general, man, you know, I can't complain at all. But
no. Last night I usually do like, you know, I go extra hours in the charts. And last night I came upstairs and I was like, I sat with my daughter and I taught her division. Like she learned division last night because I was like, what's 35 divided by 7? And she was like, I don't know. I'm like, well, count how many 5s are in 35. And she was like, well, 5. 10, 15, 20. And she was like, and she figured out how to do division last night in her head. And I kept hitting her with like, what's, you know, and then I was asking my wife, I told my wife, I was like, give me hard ones. And my wife was like, what's, you know, 54 minus times 35. And I was doing them in my head. I was nailing them. It would take me like a minute or two, but I'd be like, all right, 54 times 35. And like, I could probably do it now. I don't want to waste your guys' time. But so like, and we were playing with math as a family for like a whole hour. And my wife was like, see what happens when you spend more time with the kids? See what happens when you come up? Like, you just taught her division. And, you know, she's not even going to do that for 2 years. Like, she's like, and, you know, she's like, the family needs the dad. You know, the family, you know, they need us, man. But, you know, we run trading groups. Like, you run a trading group as well as I do. So there's all these other people asking you questions every day. Someone that, hey, I just started market Cipher. And you're about to go eat dinner. But, I could just spend 5 minutes and help this person, you know? And
you're 5 minutes turns into like 5 hours.
Yeah. It's like, wait, all right, I got to go. But, man, this was awesome, man. I really, really appreciate you jumping on to the show, coming onto the channel. Thank you for jumping twice now in 2 weeks. So we thought it was going to happen, and now it already did happen. It was God's plan.
Sure, bro.
I appreciate your, your dedication to God and your ability. You know, you read the Bible, you memorize, like, Leviticus, man. You blew me away, man. Pretty interesting guy. So, yeah. And everyone watch his channel. He's a market cipher dude, but he'll teach you fibs. He'll teach you retracements. He'll show you areas to watch. He recently was bullish when everyone was very, very bearish. He saw an indication of divergence. So he is a traditional trader in my sense because he uses the divergences. He uses support and resistance. And honestly, no matter who you learn from, me, him, just make sure you stay in a system and get it down for a couple years till you eventually venture off. To me, trading is like a labyrinth of multiple like roads and angles. And I spent 5 years going down 100 roads and angles. And like, had I just watched him for once had I just centered on one person, like I eventually did in the trading group that I joined, thank the heavens I did. You know what I mean? So a lot of people try to put down trading groups. Oh, you could do it on your own. You could, but it might take 5 years. Like you're going to get information and people pushing you, and you're going to get motivated when you're around a bunch of people doing the same thing. So
yeah, it's like if you try and do it yourself, you can, but it's like you're getting one puzzle piece at a time and you don't know what the picture is. But if you are learning from somebody or a group of people, then they're going to show you the picture, and then you'll be like, okay, I get it now. This piece goes here, this piece goes there. It's basically it's a time thing, right?
Yeah.
It's a time thing.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
And like you were saying before, it's like, you know, when we do TA, we have a different approach, but we usually come to a very similar conclusion. It's because we're all looking at the same thing from a different perspective. So it's like, once you stick with something for a long time and then you venture into other styles, you'll realize, oh, snap, it's the same thing,
Yep,
just from a different perspective. So then you can add that on top of what you're already doing, and then you build your own thing. So that's kind of how it's worked for me.
dude, thank you so much. I know you got to get to your homestead. You got chickens to feed, man. You got eggs to collect. You got weights to lift. But man, thank you so much for your time. May God bless you and your family. And I'll catch you on the next collaboration and live stream. Everybody, yeah, Jason Casper.
Sam. God bless, bro. Take care.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.